I'm going to show you absolutely everything you need to know to play a Shadow Priest in Mr. Pandaria Classic. Starting off with which race to play, I would really recommend going with Pandaren, and that is because we have a fantastic racial called Epicurean. This is going to double the amount of well-fed bonuses you get. So if you're using a food like a Pandaren banquet that gives 300 intellect, this will give 600 intellect instead, which is massive. If you are Horde though, then Trolls are still absolutely amazing with their berserking. But don't forget Pandaren can be Alliance and Horde, so it really is up to you. The other alliance option would be Worgen, but they're just not as good anymore with their 1% crit now that we have the Epicurean racial passive. Going into the talents and glyphs, we don't have an amazing choice of talents, but it's definitely better for Shadow than it is for Discipline and Holy. Void Tendrils is what I'd go for on the first line, which means you can root people in place. Psyfiend is basically another fear that you can get instead, and Dominate Mind is a mind control. So it's completely up to you which you pick, and don't forget we can now change our talents at will with the Tome of the Clear Mind. On the second line, really the only option that I think is appropriate for our Shadow Priests in MoP is going to be Angelic Feather. Basically, you can place a feather on the ground, up to 3 of them, and then walk through them. See, this person just stood in one, so he got the feather. So it does work on whoever walks through them, not just yourself, but you can place angelic feathers on the ground that regenerate pretty quickly. And when you walk through them, you get a massive speed boost. On the third one, we're going with From Darkness Comes Light. And as you can see, Discipline and Holy get something different to Shadow here. So as a Shadow Priest, your periodic... And by the way, if you don't know the abilities I'm about to mention, don't worry. I'll be going through the full rotation and spells in full. Periodic damage from your Vampiric Touch has a chance to cause your next Mind Spike to not consume damage over time effects, become instant cast and cost no mana and deal more damage. And you can get up to 2 charges of this. So it's just a passive thing that is happening when we're using our Vampiric Touch, which we will be. The next one is all about defense. I like Desperate Prayer. It's a 2-minute cooldown where you can instantly heal 30% of your health every 2 minutes. The other one I would recommend is Angelic Bulwark. Basically, when you drop below 30% health, you gain an absorption shield for 20% of your health for 20 seconds. And that can happen every 1.5 minutes. So this is passively going to help you when you drop to low health. This one is up to you when you use it, and you can instantly heal 30% health. So I like Desperate Prayer personally. Divine Insight is going to be best on the next line. Periodic damage from your Shadow Word Pain has a chance to reset the cooldown on one of your other spells, which is Mind Blast, and cause your next Mind Blast to be instant cast and cost no mana. So passive damage that we're already doing has a chance to make one of our main spells instant cast and cost no mana. And also reset the cooldown. The last one is again a choice, so I would definitely go with Divine Insight on this line, but this line is again a choice. Divine Star basically shoots out a boomerang, if you will. So it would go like towards the target and then back to me, doing damage. Halo, however, is better in kind of more AoE situations. As you can see here, it does a halo of damage and hits everything in that massive radius. And Cascade kind of bounces all over the place. So it really depends on where your enemies are. If it's just somebody standing over here, then shoot a halo at them. If they're all around in a circle, then it's going to be halo. If they're kind of one over here, one over here, one over here, then Cascade may be better. Looking now at the glyphs, we have a few good major glyphs as a Shadow Priest. No minors, they're all just cosmetic for us. So, Glyph of Mind Spike, your successful non-instant Mind Spikes reduce the cast time of your next Mind Blast by 50%, and it can stack twice, meaning again we can get more instant Mind Blasts. Dispersion reduces the cooldown on it by 15 seconds. This is a defensive I'm going to be talking you through. And then Glyph of Mind Flay. It no longer slows your victim's movement speed, because honestly, in raids, we don't really care about slowing enemies that much. Sometimes you might, however, and you might not want to use this, but a lot of the time we don't. Instead, you are granted movement speed, and it can stack 3 times, meaning that when we're using the spell, we get movement speed, and it can help us get around the arena when we're in a raid. I like to call it the arena, which is the raid environment, not actual PvP arenas, but also could be in PvP arenas if you're doing PvP. But anyway, I digress. It can help us get in and out of the fire and stuff like that even quicker. For Mr. Pandaria Classic, I'm teaming up with Zygor to give you 20% off with code Javier. Zygor gives you the fastest and most efficient leveling experience. As you can see here, looking at killing snow leopards, I can even click all the different waypoint coordinates to see the fastest way to get to the different areas they may be in. It can also look at flight paths and show me which ways to go, including all of the different travel options. And when choosing quest rewards, it can even tell me which is the best upgrade for me. And this will be even spec dependent. I can click on the gloves, complete the quest, and then it will even tell me to equip them and shows me how much attributes and stats I will gain by equipping these items. Maybe even talents. I can use the talent advisor with Zygor, simply clicking that I want to be an affliction warlock, and it's going to configure it automatically to show me the best leveling build for affliction for me. The fun doesn't stop there though, because it's available for SOD, classic, retail, leveling. I can choose zones I want to go into, and it'll tell me how to get there and do all of the leveling in that zone, even if you're going back to old zones that you've leveled out of. Dungeons, dailies, events, reputation, gold making, professions, pets and mounts, and achievements. You can use as little or as much as you like. And don't forget, you can get 20% off with code Javier and battle past everyone at lightning speed in Mr. Pandaria Classic. Moving on to the rotation part, it's really quite simple for Shadow Priests. So we have a few interesting capabilities that do happen, however. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off combat with a big old Mind Spike. We're only really going to precast this just to get some damage uptime on, as it will reduce the cast time of our next Mind Blast by 50%. But generally, we're not going to be using it much. Don't forget to also go into Shadow form, increasing all shadow damage and armor, and giving all raid and party members 5% haste. Then, once we're now in combat, we're going to put our dots up and keep them up on the target at all time. That is Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch. If you're doing AoE and there's multiple targets, and there's 2 to 4 targets, feel free to try and put up Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch onto as many targets as you can. That's really the only one we're going to be doing for an AoE situation, is actually just getting our dots up and following the normal rotation. If there's 5 or more enemies, then you can use Mind Sear, which will basically just deal damage to all enemies nearby that target. So keep up your Shadow Word Pain, keep up your Vampiric Touch on the target, and do this at all times. Then we're going to use Devouring Plague whenever we have all orbs. So what you'll see up here is we have 3 Shadow Orbs, generated by Mind Blast, which is this one, and also Shadow Word Death whenever we do use it. So you can see here, I've used Mind Blast, I now have 1 Shadow Orb, and that will empower Devouring Plague. It consumes all of our current Shadow Orbs, whether that's 1, 2 or 3, to deal damage, and more damage over a few seconds, and heals us a little bit as well. The damage is increased for the more orbs we used. So I would recommend that you only use Devouring Plague when you have 3 Shadow Orbs. So I use Mind Blast again, and now I have 2 Shadow Orbs. I keep up my Vampiric Touch and my Shadow Word Pain, and one thing you'll notice is you'll sometimes get an instant Mind Spike. Whenever you have this, just use it, as it's basically a free instant spell. So here we go, I'm going to get my 3rd Mind Blast, and now I have 3 Shadow Orbs, and you'll know you do, because your Devouring Plague will be highlighted, so we can then use it then, and then use Mind Blast whenever you get any procs of it as well. Use Shadow Word Death whenever you can. This is only going to be when the enemy has less than 20% health, but it does a lot of damage and grants you a shadowy orb as well. So you will be generating more of them once the enemy gets to low health. Apart from that, we're going to use Mind Flay as our filler spell, which is basically going to do some damage. Each time it does do damage, you'll get some increased movement speed. So again, keep up Shadow Word Pain, keep up Vampiric Touch, use Devouring Plague when you have 3 orbs, use any instant casts of your Mind Blast, and use any normal casts of your Mind Blast to get up your shadowy orbs. And when you do have 3 shadowy orbs from Mind Blast, that is when we're going to use Devouring Plague. In AoE situations, between 2 and 4 targets, try and get up Shadow Word Pain and Vampiric Touch on them. And then if it's like 5 or more targets, then we're just going to use Mind Sear, because that is, well, the most efficient thing we can do in that situation. We also have Silence, which is a 45-second cooldown, but will interrupt and silence the enemy for 5 seconds, which is very, very useful, of course. I want to go through the passives before we go over the cooldowns. Don't forget that your periodic damage from your Shadow Word Pain is the one that is giving you a chance to reset the cooldown on Mind Blast and make it instant and cost no mana. Shadow Orbs we've already gone through. We have our Mastery, Shadowy Recall, gives your periodic damage a chance to deal damage twice each time they deal damage. So just some extra passive damage we get there from our Mastery. While we're doing damage, you will also see shadowy aperitic visions going towards your target. So when you deal crits with Shadow Word Pain, you also create a shadowy version of yourself that floats towards the target, dealing damage. One other really interesting thing about Shadow Priests is obviously we need to hit our hit cap, and I'm going to go through that in more detail in the stat priority part of the video. But spiritual precision means that we grant hit equal to any spirit gained from items or effects. So if we have gear with spirit on it, it will actually help contribute towards our hit rating. Now going into the cooldowns we have, there's Halo that I've already mentioned earlier, so you may not have Halo, you may have Divine Star or Cascade, depending on which one you've picked in the talents, and remember, that is dependent on where the enemies are in the fight. We have Dispersion on a 1.75 minute cooldown. You disperse into a ball of shadow, reducing all damage taken by 90%, and you generate 6% mana every 1 second for 6 seconds. We also have Shadow Fiend, which will do some attacks. It doesn't do a huge ton of damage, but it will grant you a lot of mana back as well whenever it attacks, and you should be using that on cooldown. Vampiric Embrace will actually cause you and your allies to be healed by 50% of any single target shadow spell damage you deal, split evenly between them. So whenever there's a lot of raid-wide damage coming in, you can use Vampiric Embrace, and then do your usual rotation, which will actually heal you and your other allies to help out the healers a bit. And it's a really fantastic cooldown. Speaking of helping everyone out while also helping yourself, we can use Hymn of Hope on a 6-minute cooldown, and what this will do is restore mana to every nearby friendly party member over a few seconds. But do beware, Hymn of Hope will take you out of your shadow form. It's on a 6-minute cooldown, so you're probably going to only use it once in a fight, but just don't forget to go back into shadow form after you use it, because you can only usually use shadow spells in shadow form, and holy spells will take you out of it. Powered Fortitude increases stamina for you and your party and raid, and Inner Fire will actually give you a lot more armor and also spell power while active. This is from a different spec instead of. And lastly, going on to the utilities we have available, because we do have a fair few as a Shadow Priest. We have Psychic Horror, consumes all shadow orbs to terrify your target, causing them to tremble in horror, and drop their weapons and shield for 8 seconds. We're not really going to be using this because we have... we're going to be using it on Devouring Plague instead, but in PvP or, I don't know, outdoor situations, etc., you may want to use this. We have Dispel Magic, removing a beneficial magic effect on your enemy. You can use this in shadow form. Fade will remove all fret for you in case you've got too much fret. Leap of Faith will drag a target to you, so if this person over here was standing in the fire, I could Leap of Faith them to bring them to where I'm standing. Now you will notice here that you can't use holy spells except for Renew, Prayer of Mending, and Leap of Faith. So you can use Leap of Faith inside your shadow form. Same with Master Spell. This is a massive dispel, as you can see here, removing beneficial and harmful effects from enemies and allies alike. And it is the best in the game, and still is even in retail to this day. And that is pretty much covers off the rotation part of Shadow Priest in Mr. Pandaria Classic. So now going on to the stat priority. Number 1, it is going to be Intellect. That is because it increases our spell power and also our spell critical hit chance. So literally our crit chance. After that, you want to make sure you're actually hitting with your spells. So you want 15% hit chance. Now, don't forget that our spirit will equal hit chance, so you may find it a lot easier than other classes do to hit it. Now, at level 90, that equals 5100 hit rating, and you can see here that my hit rating is now 5333, so I'm just over the cap that I need. If you are a Draenei, you will have the Heroic Presence racial, don't forget about that. So you don't need as much. Gnomes and humans using swords or short blades are also the same. They will not need as much. Now, also, Mr. Pandaria, expertise will equal 1% hit as well. And expertise is the chance that the boss will parry or dodge your attack. So you see 15% between expertise and hit rating as a caster, that is, to hit your hit cap. After that, we want to get haste. So haste is going to increase your attack speed, but it also does quite a few other things. The reason it's the most important stat for us after hit and spirit, well, hit, spirit, and intellect, is because we use a lot of dots, damage over time spells. Basically, we have a soft haste cap. So at 24.922%, you get an additional tick of damage from Devouring Plague. So you can see here it's doing damage, right? It's ticking 3,018-ish damage and then doing some crits. So let's say it does 10 ticks before it falls off. Well, once you get to 24.92% haste, you will actually do another tick of damage with that spell. The same at 24.97% as well. You will get an additional tick of Shadow Word Pain. So we technically have two soft... This is getting quite complex, but for those of you that want it, here it is, you know. Now, don't forget that you also will get some haste from your shadow form as well. And that's 5% for all party and raid members. So it doesn't show it on your shadow form, but you will actually be... Or is it this one here? Yes, Mind Quickening. Spell haste decreased by 5%. So it doesn't show it on this buff, it shows it on this one. The haste rating you will need is going to be 7,584 if you want to hit these caps. Goblins actually will need... Sorry. What did I say? If you are a goblin, you only need 7,584 haste. If you're not a goblin, you need 8,085 haste. Not many people play goblin anyway. But that's if you want to hit those soft caps that I've mentioned, and it gets you an extra tick of Devouring Plague and or Shadow Word Pain, depending if you hit each soft cap on haste. But that's quite in-depth and complex stuff I'm talking about here. Don't feel like you have to work towards these. It's quite high, you know, in-depth. After that, it's just going to be crit chance, and then after that, it's going to be more haste after you hit the soft cap, and then mastery. Mastery, remember, gives your periodic shadow damage a chance to deal damage twice. And that is your spell priority. So it basically goes intellect, and then spirit or hit, or expertise, and then it goes haste up to the soft cap, which is going to be 24.97%, so basically 25%. Once you hit that soft cap, you're then going to go on to crit chance, any haste after that, and then mastery. Looking now at like gems, enchants, and things like that, you want a Burning Primal Diamond in your meta slot. If you are having issues reaching the hit cap still, you can go for the Precise Primordial Ruby and things like that. Otherwise, it's going to be a brilliant Primordial Ruby. If your socket bonus is not at least 60 intellect, so if it's, say, 60 mastery on a yellow slot, then what you can do is go for a brilliant Primordial Ruby there, because the intellect will be worth more than basically what you can get with a yellow socket. Otherwise, if it is a 60 intellect socket bonus on a yellow gem slot, then go with a Reckless Vermilion Onyx. Again, if you're having issues with the hit cap, there are blue gems to help out with that as well. Otherwise, it'll be Purified Imperial Amethyst or Perfect One instead. For the enchants we've got a few on the shoulders here from Inscription, but if you are an inscriber yourself, you can get this super duper whooper one as seen here. Superior intellect on your cloak and lightweave embroidery if you're a tailor. Glorious stats on your chest. Intellect again on the wrists. You can actually get fur lining with intellect if you're a leather worker, and you can also add an extra socket if you are a blacksmith, and that goes for the hands as well. On the hands, you can get mastery, haste, expertise, which will of course help with the spell hit cap should you need it. Living steel belt buckle, everyone can add, no matter your profession. Cerulean spell thread, etc. on here, and there's master spell thread if you are a tailor. Pandaran step on your feet. If you're an enchanter, you can get greater intellect on both your rings, and then you've got Jade Spirit, Elemental Force, or Wind Song on your weapons. And you can also put major intellect if you are using an offhand or can use an offhand as a caster as well. Regarding the professions that you may want to take, tailoring gives you about 320 intellect. Blacksmithing does, jewel crafting does, alchemy, enchanting does. They all pretty much give the same amount, but leatherworking always comes through with an extra 10 intellect. Herbalism gives 480 haste as well, so not bad, but generally it doesn't matter which profession you take in Mists of Pandaria. For consumables, as a caster, I'm filming this on my mage, but it's the same for all casters, you want Potion of the Jade Serpent, increasing intellect by 4,000 for 25 seconds. You've got Flask of the Warm Sun, increasing intellect by 1,000 for an hour. And then you've also got a mana potion if you need it, called a Master Mana Potion. There's a Potion of Focus as well for casters, should they need it for their mana as well. Master Healing Potions are the healing potions, and generally going to be using a Great Pandaran Banquet to get 275 in intellect. If you're using food on your own, however, it's going to be a Mogu Fish Stew, which gives 300 intellect. There is a braised turtle, which is 275 as well, and swirling mist soup, which gives 250 intellect. But generally, the Mogu fish stew is the absolute best, with 300 intellect for all casters. And there we go, guys. That is how you play Shadow Priest in Mists of Pandaria. I really do hope that was helpful, of course. If it was, do leave a like and subscribe. If you want to get Zygor, I do honestly really recommend it. It's an amazing app, and you can get 20% off with code Javier in the description below. And if you also would like to support the channel, you could do so by Patreon in the description too. That will unlock a VIP channel in Discord where I can give you some help, etc. if you need it in there as well, which is a bonus for Patreons, as well as LVY profiles and lots of other stuff. Do check out the playlist and attached, as that will show you all of my Mists of Pandaria guides.